Knockout Legends in the building. Like, comment, and subscribe. So, today I want to talk about the upcoming rumours and upcoming bouts that are supposed to be taking place in Saudi for the 23rd of December. And basically, we've got the rumour that Anthony Joshua versus Otto Wallin is supposed to be on the cards. And then we've got Deontay Wilder versus Joseph Parker. Now, there's also, I think, Daniel Dubois versus Jarrell Miller. And I think Frank Sanchez might be on the card, and and Matt Mudoff. As Matt Mudoff's supposed to be on the card as well. So I'm going to play a clip here by Boxing King Media with an interview with Gareth A Davis, and then I'm going to get back into it after. So with no further ado.
A list of fighters broken by Dan Raphael. There's even been a picture today on His Excellency Turki Al Sheikh's Instagram and Twitter showing him with Eddie Hearn and Anthony Joshua. You would assume that that is here in London. So, you know, that what we're hearing is that he may be facing Otto Wallin. It's not confirmed, but that's a good fight if it is happening. Also, Deontay Wilder and Joseph Parker is being discussed as rumours as well. If that fight happens, I like it. I don't think they were ever going to put Wilder and Joshua in the mix as well as against each other straight away, even though that's been talked about for 5 years now. But overall, you can see, even though there have been so many people complaining about the heavyweight division's best fighters haven't been fighting each other, at the very least, if you've got Wilder and Joshua in that milieu, in that mix, and fighting in Riyadh on December the 23rd. Obviously, it was going to be Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk originally, wasn't it, for the undisputed title? But that's gone by the wayside because of, you know, injuries to Tyson Fury or him physically not being ready for Alexander Usyk after the Ngannou fight. We're starting to get all the big names under one umbrella, and I think that's amazing for the heavyweight division if that does prove to be correct as the days go on.
Definitely. So I'm actually going to start with that picture. You know, the pictures are kind of hallmarks of what we saw with the Usyk. You know, he took a picture with His Excellency literally a month or so before the announcement, and boom, the fight was kind of technically done.
Signed, yeah.
Yeah, and now it's the same sort of thing. What do you think of Wallin as an opponent? Because he's only got one loss against Tyson Fury. It's not an easy fight, is it?
No, it's not an easy fight, and I think Joshua's quite a big favourite in that fight with the bookies, and I think I don't want to overstate or even understate how hard this fight is, but all these fights at this level, I think Wallin is in the top 10, just around about the top 10 in the world right now. He's got better and better and better, and Joshua, it's a good test for Joshua, a very good test, and he'll have to be on his mettle for that fight. But imagine if he gets a spectacular victory. It really puts him in the mix in the heavyweight division for these big fights, potentially Wilder, or maybe Ngannou, maybe Francis Ngannou. That's a fight that people have been talking about since Fury and Ngannou danced in the ring for 10 rounds. A lot of people have anticipated Ngannou staying in boxing and maybe facing Deontay Wilder, facing Anthony Joshua. They're all fights that would get you watching. They are all big kind of spectacles, if you like. So I think it's very good news if it does come off.
Definitely. So one of the things I want to touch on before I go down the card that's been rumored is, you know, when we saw His Excellency Turki Al Sheikh start doing work with, you know, with Queensberry and Top Rank, and, you know, Spencer Brand being involved as well, we kind of assumed that they wouldn't work with anybody else. Obviously, we're now seeing them working with Eddie Hearn. Obviously, Eddie's in the picture as well. So do you think that's a game changer? You know, having Matchroom involved as well now, all the promoters working together?
You need all the promoters working together if they've got contracts with the fighters. So the fact that they are meeting, I think, represents the fact that we are going to get the biggest fights. I mean, Otherwise, it's just talk on YouTube channels. It's just talk and rumor and speculative stories on websites. The fact that, in my experience, when people get together, sit around a table, get personalities together, get in person, the fights get made. It's historically that way. Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather ran into each other. The fight got made but after a basketball game. I think, and that took 5 years of waiting. If the fact that we can get Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua at the same event, maybe in the same premises, maybe around the same press conferences, I think it's fantastic because it will only lead to those guys meeting down the line. As I just said, 5 years those talks have been ongoing. Timing, money, ego. It's always the thing. You've got heavyweight boxing and you've got the rest. And with heavyweight boxing, you've got, if the money's right at the moment and the timing is right, then we're going to get the fight. And clearly, the egos are in the right place because people are meeting in person. If that photo is to be believed today, if they were in London, which is fantastic.
Who do you think will be the promoter of the show? Because honestly, looking at the card, obviously we've got there's another debate here. Who's going to headline? Is it AJ versus Wallin? Is it Parker versus Wilder?
Well, I don't know. I'll let them reveal that when they do the press conference. I mean, I don't know that that all of these are
experience in the game, Gareth. What do you know? If again these are rumored fights, if it is Wilder versus Parker and AJ versus Wallin, which one would you think, like in your head, should be headlining, and which one's a co-main event? Because either one could be, couldn't it?
Well, you've said it. You've said it and you've answered it. Both fights are worthy enough to be the main event. So I don't. That's where the ego comes in, perhaps, with all the guys deciding on who should be walking last and who should be walking first, and who should fight first and who should fight last. I'm sure they'll work that out over the next few days if they are going to announce it all.
And if it is Jarrell Miller against Daniel Dubois, which is again a rumored fight, how do you see that as like a, is it a 50-50 fight? Because obviously Daniel's coming off a loss to Usyk and Jarrell's kind of been out the limelight for a while.
Yeah, he has. People disagree with this, but there were long periods in that fight with Alexander Usyk that Daniel Dubois really impressed me. He put Usyk under pressure. He really did put him under pressure in that fight. And I just think Jarrell Miller, if he's on his mettle, I think he'll stop Jarrell Miller. I think he'll be too powerful.
So from the clip there, there's a lot to unpack. But first thing I want to say is that due to the fact that Tyson Fury
big guy,
sustained whatever damage
he's had his troubles in the past, positive tests, but it's great to see him back.
Fight, and he got suspended by the boxing board.
It's a great event.
Of a sudden,
they've got all these guys on.
Probably mentally, his mental health
on the card again.
Allegedly, is not the best because obviously he didn't win in the fashion he should win.
Frank Sanchez on there. He's in the top 5 of the WBC.
And
they've got all of these
guys
on the card. They've done an amazing job to get them all together.
For undisputed with Alexander Usyk, he's been rescheduled now.
As well. It doesn't matter.
Remember when Fury was talking about he had to fight him on the 23rd of December because he signed a contract and get sued? Isn't it a bit hypocritical now? A bit ironic that Fury can't fight Usyk now. And in it funny as well that the Saudis have to go on a different direction and basically put another show on to save that date because it's already penciled in. So with Anthony Joshua agreeing to fight Wallin, is it a good fight? Well, based off what Gareth A Davis is saying with Boxing King Media, it seems like it's a good fight. And for a couple of reasons, Wallin's only ever been defeated by Fury. Arguably, the fight with Fury should have got stopped when Fury got the cut. But Fury was given the grace to carry on. Wallin was undefeated at the time. He was actually a lot better than people gave him credit for. And he's gone on since then and had a few decent string of wins. And he has actually defeated Gassiev in the last bout that he had. So he is climbing up the rankings of the heavyweight boxing rankings pretty steadily. So what else is kind of needling me is the fact that if Joshua takes the fight, what I've heard is that Joshua needs to win in spectacular fashion. And again, it just stinks with the tribalism that's in boxing, the judgment that the British fans and media give certain boxers and don't give to others. It stinks, man. It just stinks. It's stinking out the flipping sport, and the sport in itself's starting to become stagnant because we're not getting the fights we're supposed to get. We're getting other fights because boxers won't agree to fight each other because of egos and money and whatever, and we're getting these other bouts. But then when you're changing the opponents and it's these other opponents who are decent, credible heavyweights, you're saying that this fighter needs to do this and do it this way. And I'm thinking to myself, half of the people that say this, can they even fight? You know what I mean? Would you even get in the ring and attempt to fight somebody? Can you even fight? So I'm not saying to have an opinion's wrong, but like, be balanced with the opinion instead of just being biased and quick to jump and say this and do that. Most people who have an opinion, a lot of times it's just rubbish. Do you know what I mean? And the same could be said about myself, and maybe I'm being a hypocrite, but my opinion is this, is that Joshua will win the fight how he needs to win the fight, in the sense that he needs to adapt to each opponent, to how the fight to win. You can't just go in and steamroll everyone. It's not going to work. And Wallin can move. He's a mover and he's a southpaw, which is the same attributes what Usyk had. Maybe he's not as good as Usyk, but he gave Fury problems, and Fury's probably going to have a hard night's work with it with Usyk. But the point I'm trying to make is Joshua's gonna struggle. But the problem is, I think, for Wallin, is can he take a shot off Joshua full-fledged? Now, I reckon Joshua will be able to take Wallin shots, but it's a case of, will he know how to fight on the back foot or counter, and will he be able to catch Wallin cleanly to hurt him? Well, we'll have to see when we see the fight, but it's still a good fight to see. Moving on to the Deontay Wilder and Joseph Parker fight. That isn't actually a decent fight to make, because Parker has actually looked pretty decent since his last fight. And to be fair, he went up against Joe Joyce and he gave it a good go. That was a good fight, that. Even though Joe Joyce is just too flipping big. It's a pity that Parker wasn't the same Parker what was in for the Dillian Whyte fight, because if he did that little bit more, he may have actually stopped the Dillian Whyte, because Dillian Whyte was gassed in the last couple of rounds and he'd knocked him down. So if he'd have stepped on the gas a bit sooner, he may have actually got Whyte out of there and won the fight. It would actually be interesting to see a rematch with them two now. And then obviously the Derek Chisora fight, the first fight, he kind of let himself down, but then he come back and then beat up Derek, basically, which he should have done in the first fight. So the potential is there. Sometimes I think it's motivation with Parker. Maybe he underestimates some of his opponents and don't think that they're all that, or maybe he gets a shot and it makes him fight more defensively, and maybe he should be that little bit more aggressive. You know, maybe the tactics for Joyce were wrong, but he still went out there and did what he needed to do, which was, you know, a good fight. And I think the rumour is that before they were supposed to actually fight when Parker was WBO champion and Wilder was WBC champion, but obviously they couldn't agree the money. I think they wanted to give Parker $1 million, but you're WBO champion, why are you going to accept $1 million? And then you went on to fight Joshua and got 10 million. So there's a big disparity there when you're trying to unify a belt, offering a champion $1 million. And fair enough, you might say, oh, well, no one knows him, but nobody really. I'm not saying they didn't know Wilder, but he wasn't as big or as popular as Parker was in that sense, because they're only popular in their respective countries and respective boxing communities and only with hardcore fans. So that fight gets made, that's a good fight. Wilder should win, but styles make fights, and Parker is a better boxer. But of late, we've seen that Wilder actually has improved. He's got a little bit more to his game. He's moving a little bit more. He's using the jab more, doing body shots more. He's throwing more combination punches. He's not just relying on the right hand. And when he's on job and he's focused, Wilder can actually box, because he had to box Stavern to win the WBC belt. And I think that was the only time he went 12 rounds. But before, obviously, the Fury fight. But anyway, it's an interesting matchup to watch. I still think Parker can give him trouble. If Parker is aggressive but defensive minded, but with his aggression. So in the last few fights, if he's aggressive like that, but still fights how he does on the back foot defensively as well, that will give Wilder trouble. Because even though he has to rely on the big right hand, he may not be able to land it as cleanly as possible and hit Parker with it, because Parker, for one, is a little bit smaller, so it's going to be harder for him to line that punch up. Also, if he fights defensively, he's more defensively sound. It's just a case of if the aggression or the heart is lacking, Wilder will take advantage of it, and if he smells blood, he will probably spark him out. But anyway, back onto the interview with Gareth A Davis and what they were saying about the matchups and about Daniel Dubois. He was saying that Dubois impressed him in the Usyk fight, and to be fair, he did have his moments and he was decent. He's saying that he thinks that he would actually take out Jarrell Miller if he's on job, but Miller's a dangerous opponent because he's 300 pounds. He can knock you out and he's got power. Now in that fight there, if Miller's on his PEDs, he's going to win, because he's just going to be too big for Daniel, and he's just going to be throwing punches. So it depends on if the sanctioning bodies there are screening for PEDs. If they're not, Miller will win. If they are, then Daniel's got a good chance of a 50-50 chance of winning. But again, I don't know if Daniel can take a shot, sustained, because like if you keep hitting him, I'm not saying he's got no heart, but like, will he get stopped by the ref, or will he lose interest, or will he take too much punishment and the ref have to stop the fight? Who knows? In that fight there, it's a 50-50. So with it being 50-50 with Dubois and Miller, it's a case of who's going to want it the most. I think Dubois is at this stage in his career now where he needs a significant win to actually propel him back up the rankings, because he's had a good run actually, because he had the fight with Joyce and he fell short in that, but then he managed to pick himself up, get a win, and then he got the WBA regular belt, and then obviously he went on to challenge Usyk and he lost, but he did drop Usyk, so there is that. And there was a few times in the round where Usyk looked a bit scared, so it's just a pity Daniel couldn't finish the job, and the referee decided to give him all that bizarre amount of time to recover. But anyway, if the Daniel that turns up that has the potential to be a good boxer, then Miller's in for a hard night. But anyway, what do you think? Leave your comments in the comment section. Like, comment and subscribe. And that is another one from Knockout Kings. Legends. Peace.